to thank our sponsor, Third Scribe, for sponsoring the show. Third Scribe is a place where authors can connect with readers, and authors can have a full blogging platform, bookstore. It takes care of all the things that an author needs to get their work and everything that they do out in front of readers. And it also allows readers to connect with the authors that they love. So check out thirdscribe.com. Also, you've heard us talk a lot about it, but it's finally here. Apocalypse Weird launches this month, February 23rd, with 5 books launching in one day. It's going to be incredible. Nothing like this has ever been done in indie publishing, and it's going to be something for readers to love, for you to collect, for you to get involved with and see this ever-growing universe. And it's going to be phenomenal. So I hope you'll join us. Go to apocalypseweird.com and sign up today so that you can be on the mailing list to get all of the new information as it comes out daily. apocalypseweird.com. Well, thank you for joining me again this week for the Author Stories podcast, where I bring you the story behind the stories and the storytellers. My guest this week is Mary Ann Edwards. Welcome to the show, Mary Ann.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on the show. We've been trying to connect for a few weeks now, and I'm glad that we finally lined this up. I'm happy to have you here. I start each episode by asking my guest to give us a little bit of background into how they became a writer and how they came to publish their first work. So tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I really seems like I've been writing all my life. My mother, when I was growing up, she would write poems and short stories and things like that, and I just thought that was something that a person did.
Right.
So I just have always, written. I started out writing poems, and then in high school, short stories, and then when I got married, that was almost 35 years ago. My husband encouraged me to start writing again, and so I wrote a couple of short stories and had those published. And I had a novel inside of me, so I finished that manuscript, but I didn't do anything with it. And then I wrote another manuscript, Brilliant Disguise, and I went to Killer Nashville last year to find an editor, a publisher, someone who would be interested in taking my story. And while I was there, I talked to several authors, published authors, who had gone the traditional route, and then after their contract was up, went to self-publishing. And they started explaining all the benefits to self-publishing. And so I decided, okay, let me try it. So I did. I found an editor, had a graphics designer, just went ahead, wrote the story, had it edited, had a fantastic graphic artist. The cover of Brilliant Disguise actually was a finalist in the In Detail Creme de la Cover contest.
It's a great cover.
Yeah. If you look at the cover, it's got the elements of the story on the cover. So if you look at the story, you can see it. The wristwatch is part of the story. The fence, if you look through the blood, you can see some eyes and a fence. That's all part of the story.
Awesome.
So it went pretty, it wasn't easy. The editor was the hardest part, trying to find a good editor. And unfortunately, my first editor wasn't that good. But it did teach me some lessons when I published the second book.
Yeah.
I think I had 6 different pairs of eyes look at the book before I published it. But
so where did the idea for Brilliant Disguise come from?
It's actually based on a true story. My sister was shot. She survived, but it's based on that story of her being shot. And it's, of course, I've embellished it, changed names,
sure.
And but the concept of that came from her.
Wow, what was that process like, telling a story that was so close to home?
It was a little scary.
I can imagine.
But I was able to tell the story without really telling the truth, I guess. I was able to take a bad situation and make it into a good situation by writing a good book. Well, I think it's a good book anyway.
Well, you certainly have a whole passel of excellent reviews on it on Amazon. So other people think it's a great book too.
Well, thank you.
So is this book a part of a series?
Yes, it'll be a series. I have planned a series of 10. The second book the second book, A Good Girl, picks up 3 months after the first book ends. And then the third book that I'm writing now is called Criminal Kind, picks up 2 weeks after the third book ends. So I'm trying to keep the timeline very close in the books. So like the fourth book will be, right now, the working title for the fourth book is called Sins of My Youth. And that one will pick up about a month after the third book ends. So I'm trying to keep the timeline very close together. And it's set in 1982. All the books are. So, well, actually, it'll end up going into 1983, but it's early 80s when the books are set.
Gotcha. What genre would you say your books are mostly? And I have this conversation with people, and genre is one of the hardest things to nail down. A lot of times because a lot of our stories tend to straddle the fence, so to speak.
Yeah, my books really, a lot of people call them cozy mysteries, but mine's really not a cozy mystery, the traditional cozy mystery, because it normally involves a amateur female sleuth, and mine does not have that. But my books are more like a traditional mystery, like Agatha Christie or Caroline Graham, who writes the Midsummer Murder Mysteries. So there's a little bit of romance in it. There's no violent gore, murders, or anything like that. It's not very graphic. There's no graphic sex scenes or bad language. So they're a good, clean mystery with a little bit of romance thrown into it. So romantic mystery, maybe.
It, oh man, what kind of response did you get when you first published Brilliant Disguise?
It was well received. It was. I was pleasantly surprised that it was because I didn't think. You know how all authors the self doubt.
Oh
You
yeah.
know. I thought the story was good, but would anybody else think it was good? And I did. I got very good response from that, from the first book and the second. A Good Girl, I've been told is better than the first. So, um,
Awesome.
good.
What did you do to? You said you published some short stories several years ago,
Hmm.
and you had a manuscript in you, and you wrote it, but you kind of put it away. Um, what did you do? You were, I'm assuming, a relative unknown in publishing, and then you write this great book and you bring it out. What did you do to get it in front of people?
Well, I did a couple of Facebook events, had a book signing. I called my hometown newspaper, which is Mercedes, Texas. I had them do a story. It was actually a full front page story in the Mercedes newspaper that's in Texas. And
Wow.
then my town that I grew up in, which is Conyers, Georgia, did a full front page story about me as well. So it's basically just getting out there. Facebook has been a tremendous help, doing the Facebook events where people that they see you over and over and over again, and they
Right.
start to remember the name, and then they start looking forward to your events and your contests and things like that. But marketing it's very hard. It's harder than writing a book.
Yeah, I think so too. And sometimes is a lot more time consuming. Trying to beat the bushes and get your work out there. And the writing, a lot of times, is the easy part,
Oh yeah, definitely.
or it
It's
feels
it,
like it anyway.
yeah, it is. Um, Now, I've had a couple of authors who have helped me out. Gretchen Archer, she writes the Double Whammy, Double Strike, and Double Dip. They're called the Davis Way Capers. She's been a tremendous help for me. Cynthia Lott and Stacy Allen, we're trying to team up together Stacy is traditionally published, but Cynthia she's an indie author as well. So we're trying to help each other out, trying to throw our names out to everybody.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk lately about the collaborative nature of publishing and self-publishing, especially. This seems to be a really great time to be writing and publishing, and I'll tell you what, I have been amazed at the amount of people that just graciously give up their time, give up their knowledge and wisdom, and it's a really phenomenal experience.
Oh yeah. When I was at Killer Nashville last year, there was quite a few indie authors there, and they just seem to band around you and lift you up and encourage you, and it's like a little family when you get connected with these indie authors. It's incredible, how much they're willing to help each other. It's beautiful.
It really is. It really is. Um, Marianne, to get back to the creative process a little bit, so you had you obviously had an idea for this first book because it was based on real events. Uh, but where do your ideas come from? Do you ever have an aha moment and have an entire story pop into your head, or does it come with character first? Does it come with plot first? What's your kind of discovery process like?
On the second book, it's really really weird. I was listening to Tom Petty song, and there was a phrase in it. She's a good girl. She loves her mama.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's a really good story. And then I heard a news story about a woman who had been strangled and was found in a freezer.
Mm.
And so I put together, she's a good girl, and then the good girl being strangled, and why was she strangled? And then it just kind of worked its way that way. In the second book, the good girl actually turns out not to be such a good girl, and this book opens up with the good girl being found in an antique armoire. She'd been strangled with a curtain tie back and a red rosary bead stuffed into her mouth.
Wow.
So it started off with the Tom Petty song, She's a Good Girl, and then the news story, and I just kind of melted those together, and out came the story.
Wow. How long did it take for you to kind of let that story percolate and for it to come together?
Oh, not long at all. It took me about 3 months to write the book.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
yeah, once I got in, what I do is I plot it out by chapters, and I get a big notebook with loose leaf paper in it, and then I just go through the chapters, how one will lead to the next, and I just write a couple of sentences, and then sometimes the characters say, no, that's not what's going to happen, and it changes. So,
Right.
and actually, the murderer in the second book changed. Someone else decided she wanted to kill the good girl, so, so the murderer changed.
And they do that to you.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I've had some unruly characters that just refuse to do what I told them to do.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And the,
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, in the third book, A Criminal Kind, that's also a Tom Petty song, too.
Tom Petty would be flattered, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, the fourth book is also based on one of his songs, too. I love Tom Petty.
Well,
Tom
you are
Petty
from Georgia. I mean,
Yeah, Tom Petty's my muse.
That's great. I love it. Oh, so you begin with an idea and you get your notebook and you start to plot it out. And before you sit down to start the actual writing, do you have the book fairly mapped out?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have all the characters mapped out, their personalities, their characteristics, why they are the way they are. I have a page on each one of my characters as well.
Wow. What kind of exercise do you do to discover the characters' personalities and their traits?
It's really spooky, they tell me. I put down a name and I start writing down, what they look like, and their character, just their personalities just speak to me. Maybe I'm mentally ill. I'm not sure, but yeah, their personalities just I don't know how else to describe it. They're just there. They just appear. Um, I know how I want the person to act, and they tell me, why they act that way. Yeah, I am insane, aren't I?
Well, normal people might think so, but writers have never been accused of being normal people. So I think most of the audience will completely understand.
And also you can draw from people that you see, and it's true. When I say, be nice to me, or you're going to end up in my novel,
Yeah.
just by overhearing someone like at a table next to you talking, watching people interact, like being on a cruise ship, is a great place to people watch. And I draw from real people, and
Yeah.
so yeah, it's fun.
What's the strangest thing that you have overheard or witnessed from afar that you then worked into a book?
The very first cruise that my husband and I took, there was a passenger. She comes walking into the buffet, and I swear she looked just like the Carol Burnett Nora Desmond character. Do you remember
Right.
that?
Yes.
And she is in my second book. Not has Nora Desmond. But she's the one of the taxi drivers. Character. And yeah, I was just stunned. I can't believe this is Nora Desmond walking through the through the buffet. And so I used that character, how she looked and everything, into the second book. But
Awesome.
yeah, that was just it was like watching Carol Burnett walk through the buffet. It was amazing.
That's funny. Um, so your books that you're writing in the series, your protagonist is Charlie McClung. Is that right?
Yes, he's the detective.
So tell us a little bit about Charlie. Where did Charlie come from?
Charlie, well, his name, I could start off with his name. Charlie is my grandfather's name, and McClung is from my favorite school teacher. Her name was Susan McClung in high school. I was actually her teacher's aide. She was a special ed teacher, and I was her teacher's aide, and I just loved her. She was just fabulous. So that's how I got the name for Charlie McClung. His character is mostly based on my husband. My husband's practically perfect, by the way. So it's based on his character, and then I drew from how my parents interact with each other. My father-in-law is retired chief of police, so it's a combination of men that's in my life. My husband, my father, and my father-in-law. So it's a well-blended, well-rounded character, and he is in his late 40s. He's never been married because he's looking for the perfect girl. He didn't want to settle because his parents had like the ideal marriage, and he didn't want anything less than what his parents have. And he was a policeman or detective in Richmond, Virginia, in a large department, police department, and he decides to give that up because he's just fed up with it, and moves to a small southern town in Georgia, and that's where he meets the love of his life, Marion Selby. But Charlie and I forgot, he's also fourth generation Irish.
Nice. But the McClung, of course.
Yes.
Are you Irish?
No, I'm my maiden name's Gonzalez. I'm half Mexican, and my mother is white, so I guess you could call me a Chicano.
Oh, okay. Well, we Irish welcome you in anyway.
Well, thank you.
That's
I just
uh,
love the Irish. You see these movies and things on Masterpiece, and it's just, I just fell in love with the Irish, and so I have a couple of friends who are part Irish, and I've gotten a lot of um, help from them about how the Irish would talk, what they would eat, things like that. Because in the second book, Charlie McClung takes Marion Selby to meet his family. And so, you have this big Irish family, and I want to make sure I had, their vernacular correct, and the type of foods they would eat, their customs, and things like that. So I've gotten a lot of help from my Irish friends.
nice. Nice. Now you say that he has a lot of traits. A lot of his traits are based on your husband because your husband is nearly perfect, and I'm glad
Okay.
there's two of us. Uh, completely joking. When my wife listens to this, she'll throw stuff at the computer. But uh, now you write a male protagonist who is a really good guy,
hmm
yet your book is not erotica and
Nope.
it's not a steamy romance per se.
No.
Um, that's that's a little daring in today's publishing world where we see a lot of books that tend to play to those extremes. You know, you either have when you have a strong male protagonist in thrillers and romance, then you know uh, the writer tends to go very graphic, or you get these horrible male portrayals. Have you gotten any? Has that resonated with any readers that you've got this character that's a really strong stand-up guy?
No. Actually, people have told me it's refreshing not to have this, a horrible, like a drunken man who abuses women or thinks less of women, and they appreciate not having graphic sex. That they said their imaginations work well, and there's no reason to have it just thrown in their face. So I've gotten really good feedback about having a real characters and not having the graphic sex because so a lot of ladies don't. I didn't want my church women to read that, But
I know,
yeah,
I get it. Yeah,
yeah. It's. I've been told that it's very refreshing to have a nice love story and along with a mystery.
yeah, and I think love stories have been given a bad rap, and in modern publishing, I I started to say as of late, but it's really not as of late. It's a modern phenomenon, but not just lately. Um, where uh, it seems like the love story has been sensationalized and turned into something that is not real and is um, I can't even put into words what I'm trying to say, but real love is usually um, a lot more interesting than some of the things that are published.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things that you see on TV is just so far from reality. I know it's
Right.
fiction, but I want to. I wrote what I like to read, I guess, and I wrote in a way where I would not be embarrassed for any of my friends to read it. So it's my characters are believable. I think you don't, there's not every policeman that you see, like my father-in-law. He's not an alcoholic. He's a good Christian man. Very stand-up character. Everybody
Yeah.
loves him. So not all cops are hard-nosed drunks.
Sure.
Loudmouth, violent, and vulgar. They're not. I mean, that's not real life.
Right.
So I wanted to write a book that was true to life, that was clean, sweet, and believable.
Yeah. The litmus test for me is that when I write uh, any story, a short story, a novel, or whatever, I read it out loud to my kids, and if I don't want them to hear it, then I don't write it, and
hmm
um, that's kind of how I, judge that. And you're right, and you know what? It makes you a stronger writer, I think, if you can say things and let the reader fill in what needs to be filled in without you spelling it out. I think it's a more enjoyable experience for the reader. I think they're more invested.
Yes, I definitely agree with you about that. Um, I know, like, I've had a couple of people say when they read my books, it was like they were watching a movie. It was so, you know, the description was so vivid that they said it was just like watching a movie. When I was reading your book, it's like watching, I knew I was right there. And they said that, I don't need to have that stuff thrown in my face. I can just imagine it. So, yeah.
That's so cool. Um, tell me a little bit about your daily writing ritual. Some people, and maybe it's not a ritual for you, but some people, sit down at the desk at exactly 7 a.m. and they're going to write 1,500 words, regardless, and this is going to happen. Do you have a set time, or do you have any sort of rituals or habits that work for you?
Well, here lately, no. I mean, my mother has been ill, so I've been, doing a lot of things with her. But normally, she went home today, so hopefully my life will get back into rhythm. So, but normally what I do is I'll get up in the morning, I work out every morning. Then, once I get ready, I do get ready for the day. I don't walk around in pajamas all day. I do get ready for the day.
Right.
And then I have a spare bedroom that I converted into my library, and it has this big comfy chair in it. And I just take my laptop up there, sit in my comfy chair. I've got my Diet Dr. Pepper next to me, and I just write. And, I may write for 20 minutes and then check Facebook for an hour and then go back for another 20 minutes. But I try to write at least, 1,000 words a day. Sometimes that doesn't happen, because life does, interrupt.
Sure.
And, I can't, and, I just can't write every day, just because, I have a life. So I can't just sit and, write all day long, which I would love to do. I wish I could hire a housekeeper, a cook, and, a laundress and, errand runner. I wish I could hire that, but right now, that's not going to happen. My book sales aren't good enough. But when I do become the bestseller, I will have those things. So,
And I believe you will. But Diet Dr. Pepper,
oh yeah,
that's the secret.
yeah. Well, actually, I have gone up to the hard stuff now, so I'm doing Dr. Pepper 10. So
Oh,
I've
gotcha.
graduated to the hard stuff now.
Okay, okay. Well, if we'll watch and see if there needs to be an intervention at some point. But
My husband, yeah, I can go through like 2 liters of two liters every day. I just love the stuff. So he says I'm dissolving my bones with all that soda. But yeah, to get back, I just write when I can.
yeah.
And
Do you try to get like when you sit down? Do you have a goal? Do you say I'm going to get a chapter or at least a scene, or is there generally a purpose to each writing session, or do you just kind of let the story unfold as it goes?
I like to do at least a chapter. But yeah, I usually try to get at least one chapter done when I sit down. And it may not be an all in one sitting. I may, write a couple of pages and then get up and then come back and write another couple of pages. But I do like to have at least one chapter done. Uh, Normally, I would have already had my third book, the third book finished, but because of the interruptions of my daily schedule since, actually, it was since October, my schedule has just been thrown out of the water. So my book is supposed to be out at the end of April, and I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but I'm trying my best to get it finished by then.
Gotcha. Are you using the same cover artist?
Actually, this time I thought I was going to use the same graphic designer, but a friend of mine, Pamela Rye,
Yeah.
she's for free. She's doing a book cover for me, and I'm going to actually meet up with her for the first time in person Saturday. She'll be at Murder in Magic City, and so I'll get the mock-ups for that. So we'll see how it looks.
That's pretty cool. Speaking of Murder in Magic City, you were telling me right before we started recording that there was an event coming up. What is that all about?
Okay, it's called Murder in Magic City. It's in Birmingham, Alabama, and it will be at the Homewood Public Library is where the actual conference is going to be. It's a readers conference where readers can come and meet the authors. And I forgot to say, it's put on by Sisters in Crime. So,
Okay.
and Hank Philippi Ryan's going to be the guest of honor there. But it's basically the readers can come in, they can ask the authors questions. We've got, I think, 3 panels going. The panel that I'm sitting on it's about setting. Why did you choose the city, the year, and why did you choose that setting for your books? So it'll be a panel it'll be me, Tina Whittle, Stacey Allen, Cynthia Lott, Fran Stewart, Kelly Adamson and Deborah Malone will be actually Tina Whittle's not on that panel. She's on a different panel, but we'll all be on a panel. And we'll be we have set questions that will be answered. And then after we finish, then the readers can ask us questions about our books. And then after the panel, we'll have a book signing. But it's basically for the readers to come in, meet the authors, and find out how.
Hello, Marianne. Marianne.
Are you there?
I'm here now. I can hear you now.
Okay.
We must have dropped out for a second.
Okay, yeah, I just had a little thing pop up, said something about
Oh,
internet connection.
okay. So you were saying that readers can interact with the writers.
Right. So the readers will be able to talk to the authors, learn their whole process of writing and why they write, and just basically get to know make that connection of the reader-writer aspect. That's what it's all about.
So it's going to be just like Facebook, but in person.
Right, exactly. That's it, exactly. Exactly.
Oh, that's great. Oh, now I'm glad that you brought up the panel on and talking about setting, because that was going to be a question that I had written down to ask you. Is your books are set in Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
and I know you live in Georgia. How important is it to you to set your books in this geographical place, and one that you were already familiar with, obviously, but how how is that important to you, and how does that factor into the story?
Well, it has to be a southern town because of the characteristics of Charlie and Marion, and I have to write what I know as well. So it couldn't be in a rural. It's not a rural town that he lives in. It's a suburban town of Atlanta. So it's the to me it's the perfect size city where everybody knows everybody, but yet they don't really know everybody.
Right.
So it has to the setting had to be in small town Georgia because just I can't hard to put it in words. The culture of a small town, a southern small town,
Right.
and just the characteristics that Charlie has, because he's such a nice guy. I'm not saying northern people aren't nice people, but it's
But
just a,
he was a
it's
good
just
Southern boy that was raised
yeah,
right.
that's exactly it. So it has to be a small southern town that that the story has to take place in, simply because of his personality.
Gotcha. Does the setting, the Deep South and Georgia specifically, uh, does the character of the surroundings inform the story at all? The climate, the terrain, and things like that. Does that kind of feed into the story writing process?
Yes, because there's like scenes, restaurants where there's this one restaurant called the Primrose Cottage that is owned by Marion Selsby's best friend, and it's an old plantation English cottage type of house with beautiful lush gardens and oak trees and pine trees and things like that. So it couldn't be set in Arizona because that just wouldn't fit. So it has to be in Georgia. That's just it. That's it. It's got to be in Georgia because of the the surroundings, the natural scenes, the flowers, the trees, and everything, which you couldn't find anywhere else. It has to be in Georgia.
Yeah. And once you've lived in a place and eaten the tomatoes from there long enough, it just comes out of you.
Right.
Yep. Um, so, Marianne, where can people connect with you to find your books and to chat with you? And I know you're very active on social media. And where can people hook up with you to follow you?
Facebook is the best place to find me. I do have a Twitter account. I have a Google Plus account, a LinkedIn account. I don't really do a lot with those. Facebook is really the best place to find me. On my website, I try to keep my website updated with all the Facebook events that I'm in, or this podcast will be listed there. Anywhere where I'll be, they can always go to my website and find exactly where I'll be on any given day. So they can go in there, like tomorrow I have a Facebook event. They could go to my website, see my Facebook event, click on, there's a link there, click on it, boom, you're there. So they'll know exactly where I'm going. Facebook is the best place to find me.
And your website is maryannedwards.com, and that's Ann with an E, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. And you've got icons at the top of your site where they can connect with you and email and all of that good stuff.
That's correct.
And of course Amazon to find your books.
That's correct.
Do you are they Kindle edition, Kindle and paperback, or what formats are you publishing in right now?
Both. So they can get a soft cover and Kindle. And I priced my Kindle books at $2.99. I wanted them to be affordable.
Yeah, that's awesome. Marianne, thank you for taking time to come on the show this week. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. I hope I didn't babble and ramble too much. I have a tendency to do that.
No, you were perfect. And I'll put links to your website and your Facebook and your Amazon page in the show notes, and we'll be sure to send everyone over and follow you, because you are very active on Facebook. That's how we met.
Yes.
And we actually met through a mutual friends event, Amy Hale, who is going to be on the show soon. And I'm glad we got to meet up. Thank you.
I so enjoyed meeting and talking with you.